When the printing press was invented, people were initially excited and adopted it, but quickly got second thoughts, thinking it could be used to spread misinformation, heretical ideas, fake news, which led to printed materials being heavily scrutinized for fear of a lot of it being inaccurate or downright deceptive slop. When railways were invented, some people felt a little nauseous from using trains, something which quickly got termed railway sickness, which was thought to be caused by the train's blindingly fast speed of 18 miles an hour, and from there it didn't take long for warnings that trains would cause asphyxiation or cripple women's frail bodies to spread. Photography was, for the most part, widely adopted, while at the same time condemned by very loud critics. People en masse quickly started using it without question, while guys like Baudelaire feared that photography replaced or corrupted art thanks to the low IQ, sun-worshipping masses who championed it. Films were deemed a fad that wouldn't last by some, a revolutionary marvel that would completely replace theater by others. DJs are still given shit to this day by musicians who call them talentless hacks that scroll through laptop playlists because they can't play any instruments, and bemoan the smooth brain masses who celebrate them. Video games were consistently heralded as school shooter training videos. Parents and public opinion in general just would not let that go. The entirety of the 90s was one long tirade against video games and how they're corrupting children and turning them into serial killers, and why do video games have to be so violent and about killing or fighting, and why can't they be about gardening or some shit? And it turns out that A, we do now have plenty of video games about gardening and shit, but more importantly B, after all this time, turns out there's zero correlation between what you do in a video game and what you do in real life. Or, put another way, kids aren't dumb fucking morons to shotgun a demon into chunky puffs in a video game and then suddenly think it's a good idea to do that to their English teacher too. I mean, it depends how annoying they are. And when COVID happened, people either thought it was the end of the world or it was a complete scam. Nothing in between, no variation, no nuance. It's either all shitty or all great. Black or white, heaven or hell, yin and yang, episode 5 or episode 9. So, what do I think of AI?
It's so fucking it's presented confident. I think that's garbage. It's bullshit. It's insane. It's stupid.
I haven't talked much about AI, so from the outside looking in, it can be hard to gauge my thoughts on it, especially since I occasionally talked shit and expressed hate for AI slop while simultaneously having used AI illustrations in a couple thumbnails. I can't bring myself to stomach even a single YouTube short with an AI voiceover on it, but I have an AI art channel in my Discord server. So what gives? Is there some nuance to my take, or am I just schizophrenic? Well, assuming I have a take at all, disclaimer, no one knows exactly how this tech will pan out, everything is just opinion and conjecture. The frustrating thing about the two extreme opinions we have on AI, and on every other invention we've had throughout history, as we've seen in the intro, is that they're both kinda right in their own way. AI haters are kinda right in that most AI stuff is pointless, ineffectual, or downright deceptive slop. ChatGPT still lies. Most AI-generated videos are slow-mo exercises in pageantry that are unusable in an actual story or piece of media. Most AI apps that come out at best shave off 0.4% of the time it takes you to do something yourself, so it's not worth the bother or the price. Or at worst actually cost you more time because you have to prompt it till you're blue in the face and get a simple, viable result. And my favorite part is people trying to gaslight you that no, you're the problem because you just don't know how to prompt, which is the best thing in the world. Step 1, advertise the thing as the greatest development of mankind because it requires zero technical skills and anyone can use it. Step 2, when said thing doesn't work, blame the user for not having the technical skills necessary to use it. Peak nonsense. And then the most advanced problems AI evangelists keep threatening us that AI will solve, AI ain't solving yet. Make me a video well, no, I can't do that yet. Okay, animate in between frame. Well, I'm not that advanced yet, but I can craft you a document with tips and tricks and a schedule to help you animate the in-betweens faster. Would you like me to do that? Mod these skins for me. Okay, that I can absolutely do. Great. Here's the game in question. What's the first step? Oh, on second thought, AI can't actually make the skin for you yet, but I can help with sewing the skin together. Actually, you'll have to do that yourself too, but I can help you upscale the final result. Does that sound kosher to you? Right now, the best use of AI people will recommend is asking it to write a document, mail, or story so that you can then review said document, mail, or story, correct the inevitable mistakes and stupidities, and basically craft your own document, mail, or story almost from scratch based off of that. Which begs the question of why not just craft the thing from scratch in the first place, because it sounds like it's not really saving you any time. Well, it's not just about saving time, okay, sure, but then I question what's the actual utility of this thing. If you think it'll spit out something that's more authentic, creative, original, or evocative than what you can come up with, I really don't think we're there yet. And if you're watching this 5 years from the time of recording and we are there now, feel free to enjoy this video as the time capsule that it now is. But in a world where ChatGPT-like has been coined, you sound like ChatGPT, this is so shit it looks AI generated, you're a bigger yes man pushover than ChatGPT is, etc., it's really hard to justify this kind of workflow. Arguably, the proper workflow would be in the opposite order. Do the thing yourself and then ask for a second opinion from AI who might or might not offer some insight and better alternatives for certain words, phrases, expressions. I've actually used it this way myself and actually got some value out of it. Basically, I wrote emails, replies, and offers to potential clients for various jobs and ran it by the bots who actually had some useful feedback a couple times on certain phrasings that were a bit too strong, brutish, or didn't help my case. And then on the other end of the opinion spectrum, AI enthusiasts are also kind of right in that AI will eventually be good, even if it isn't that good now. This is the worst it'll ever be, AI will eventually replace some jobs, it's better to get on it now rather than later. Only problem with this kind of sentiment is it's an exercise in moving goalpost by definition. When is this eventually exactly? It's not today? Okay. It's not tomorrow? Okay. It's not 2 years later? Okay. But eventually, and you keep saying that for long enough and you start to sound like a fearmongerer. You're gonna be right in the ultimate, absolute latest future and wrong and poorer in the present because you spent $100 a month on an AI planner you don't need and on Kling AI so you can become one of hundreds of channels struggling to make it with AI content because they saw that it worked for a couple people. Saying this will be awesome one day is nice and might be based, but you need to learn to separate then from now. It's kind of like how Christianity keeps moving goalposts. The second coming of Jesus is almost here. When? Someday. When? Y2K. Okay, it wasn't Y2K. Then when? COVID. Okay, it wasn't COVID. But sometime in the future. The world is 5,000 years old. Okay, turns out the earth is irrefutably older than that, but it was all a metaphor, you see. The resurrection of Christ? Absolutely not. Why would that also be a metaphor? It's the foundation on which all of Christianity is based, so of course that one's real. And I promise you that there is a heaven and a hell, and you absolutely cannot confirm this unless you go to this state of being that you cannot under any circumstance come back from, and you absolutely will go to heaven if you hashtag just trust me, bro. Just believe. Christianity is deliberately based on inherently vague things like faith, which by definition require complete absence of knowledge, which means you have to, by definition, not know the truth to be a good Christian. This is the problem with it will be good. It makes people unable to argue with you because you're not referring to today, tomorrow, or 3 years from now. You're referring to some undisclosed time in the future when things are the way you say they are. Just like how religion is also always referring to some undisclosed distant time in the future or past that is not now. I can't argue with what you're talking about because what you're talking about is nothing. No tangible time horizon. Or it's a time horizon that's useless to argue about, like 10 to 50 years. If I tell you that in 10 years I'll be a millionaire, believe it. There's no debate to be had there. It's not something you can prove right or wrong now. We just have to wait 10 years and see. Or I could claim that everyone will eventually die and entropy will kill this entire universe, which is actually true, but it has zero effect on how you live your life. Similarly, claiming that AI will change everything at some point doesn't much affect the way you should live your life now. On a long enough time horizon, anything will change the world forever. AI, medicine, engineering, an ice age, the entropic death of the universe, but it doesn't much affect the present, it's just a shadow you keep chasing but never catching. And the problem with these two groups is they're both kinda right about what they're saying, but they're not talking about the same thing. And they think they are. So they get into fights over nothing. Because one group's like AI's shit now, while the other group's like AI will be great in the future. And the latter group is like, eventually you'll be wrong, and the former group is like, I don't fucking care, you're wrong now. I also noticed that humanity has a horrible track record of dramatizing, catastrophizing, and sensationalizing, wow, that's an actual word, every breadcrumb of development in human history. Going back to the printing press and all the other examples I gave in the beginning, it's always the extremes. It's either we're all gonna become luminous beings made of pure energy, or we're all gonna die. And that's partly because that's the better story to tell. On some deep psychological level, that's what we prefer to hear and tell others. We communicate through stories, we tell stories, jokes, anecdotes, skits, we watch movies, read books, are fascinated with history and the aforementioned religious myths and mythology because they're stories to us. We equate them all to stories, and no one wants to watch a boring-ass movie where things are kinda bad but not world-ending necessarily. It's not life-threatening, just mildly uncomfortable. The stakes are mid. The quest is not very ambitious. What a boring fucking story that is. And then we're also more interested in potential than in reality. AI has the potential to do this or that, and that's more exciting to talk about than what it's doing now. And of course, in all those examples, the photography, the printing press, the movies, the games, the COVIDs, neither group was ultimately right. The truth was far less sensational, and the new tech was neither fully embraced nor fully rejected. It didn't fully replace other things, nor was it fully useless. It just kinda found its place. Photographs didn't fully replace paintings, they both coexist and each found its own niche. People thought photos would never be considered art. Well, joke's on you. The lighting, shadows, composition, angles, color grading, and post-processing say differently. At the same time, paintings, sketches, and illustrations didn't disappear overnight because people are fundamentally self-interested, so we like seeing what human skill can accomplish. There's fundamentally different things that we get out of a picture versus a painting. The picture is you making do with the pre-existing elements you have to capture something special, while the painting is equal parts skill of painting and expressing imagination and inspiration as it exists in your head, completely unimpeded by any real-world limitation. Also, value is very subjective. You can place it in a painting, you can place it in an expensive watch, you can place it in a banana taped to a wall that sold for $6.2 million. Movies didn't replace theater or opera. Those things just naturally became more niche over time, and now are accurately considered different mediums that you get slightly different things out of. We don't need to put makeup and hop on a stage to tell a story. We don't need to draw something from scratch, but need isn't the only criterion here. Want is a much better predictor of human development over time. People still want to read books, they still want to go see plays, and they want to commission artists to do a custom sketch or anime character or furry or Pikachu fucking Mario or whatever else. All of that is to say that even if AI were to suddenly get good overnight, it wouldn't fully replace anything. And just because you can do something a certain way doesn't automatically mean you're suddenly not interested in the alternatives. But in the heat of the moment, it's easy to overlook the variety of old and new techniques and technologies that exist in the world today simultaneously and suddenly think that people only ever do anything one way through one medium. So people tend to sensationalize things that aren't that world-changing. Meanwhile, actual world-changing things tend to happen without fanfare rather than when everyone talks about it, which is very unintuitive but is true. When smart glasses first appeared, everyone thought this would be the next big thing. It would kill the smartphone. When 3D printers were pioneered, everyone thought this would become a staple in every single household. And when VR goggles appeared, everyone knew that this would change gaming as we know it. And everyone was wrong. Yet there was a time when email hadn't caught on yet. Think about that. So we're pretty shit at predicting what the next significant development for human civilization will be, to the point where it's almost inversely correlated with the truth. Does that mean AI will turn out to be an insignificant footnote in the history of humanity? I don't know. I look at it more as, it's probably not as good nor as bad as people say it is, and history is definitely on my side on that one. But let's go over some common criticisms of AI and see how based they are. Number 1, AI is soulless. I don't know what this means. What the fuck is a soul? What this type of statement is probably trying to say is that humans are inherently uninterested in AI. Well, that's clearly fucking bullshit. So many low-effort channels with AI voiceovers with the most generic auto-edited B-roll vomiting out scammy, misinformed snake oil content, and they get views. People watch them, no problem. Generic fucking Wikipedia pages regurgitated by the deadest AI voice you've ever heard, and people watch them. This is the secret history of Madara Uchiha. Did you know this about Scorpion Spear? Watch what happens next. You won't believe this. People don't care. As much as some of us would like to think differently, they just don't care. People will watch anything. Now, of course, some of this is education. Some people are too young, too uneducated, too much of a spring chicken to tell the difference or properly appraise what kind of value they'll be able to extract out of a piece of content at a glance. It's not their fault, it's just the point they're in their lives. Some people are just too young or too old to notice this stuff. But even accounting and correcting for that, most people will not care what the source of a piece of content is. They just care that it's enjoyable. And it sounds so simple when you say it out loud. Of course, we all operate that way. But for some reason, AI triggers us and makes us reach for all this bullshit reasoning to explain why it makes us feel this way. People don't care whether something's AI generated, just like they don't care whether a background is CGI or not, or if something was shot on film versus on digital, if a drum track was recorded by a drummer or produced with a mouse in GarageBand. All that matters is the end result. And that's how it should be. Because you want to know the uncomfortable truth? Knowing it was man-made can actually bias your opinion of it. There are so many films, songs, videos, creations that are not that good, but get a pass on account of humans appreciating how much work those things took. Progressive rock and super complicated, like bebop jazz, are perfect examples. How much of it is you genuinely enjoying the music, and how much of it is you just appreciating the technical prowess of the musicians? How fast their fingers move, how complicated the chord progressions and time signature shifts are. And don't get me wrong, appreciating the human element for its own sake is okay. That's our prerogative as humans. Is the main reason we watch sports and esports. Sure, the beauty of the game is one thing, but that is fundamentally a celebration of human capability. This appreciation is a gigantic part of how and why we enjoy art and creative works, but going back to the main argument and its flaw is not the only reason we enjoy those things. We also enjoy something because it looks cool. Sounds cool. A fight scene is awesome regardless of whether it was choreographed, acted, and performed by stunt people and actors, or if it was fully animated by DreamWorks. In that same way, it's just as enjoyable if it wasn't animated at all, but just AI generated. It's aesthetically pleasing, and that's enough. Not everything has to be a celebration of the human mind and what intricate things it's capable of, and we know this because we also enjoy watching nature. Grassy fields, waterfalls, multicolored flowers and fauna, cosmic storms, stars and constellations. None of these are the result of human architects, yet they're pretty to look at. And that's enough. Number 2. AI can never be as creative or as complex or as intelligent as the human mind. Why not? Isn't is different. Isn't as creative is something I can get down with, but can never be? Is there any reason it can't? Ironically, these are the same people that will say anything's possible, life is full of wondrous possibilities. Just not this one possibility because I don't like it. Biological organisms are machines. They run on energy, calories, fuel, heat, electricity. The human brain is a computer. There's no reason to believe that two brains/computers can never reach the same level of complexity just because one is biological and the other one is a bunch of circuitry. But this is just one of the many ways the mind attempts to justify its existence. It's not brainwashing by pop culture and all the cool movies about the soul and the spirit. That's just a symptom. The cause is us. The idea of the soul was nurtured into the sapient mind by biological evolution almost as a protective measure. Just as you convince yourself that your kid is in some way special, faster, smarter, cuter, funnier than other kids, or how you yourself have something unique to say to bring to the world, in that same way, humanity as a whole created concepts like the soul and baked them into their culture to justify its existence. And conversely, when something else promises to achieve that same level of skill or sentience that we have, we feel threatened by it and double down on the soul bullshit to protect ourselves. But there's nothing to indicate that any other form of intelligence can't surpass us just because it's not like us. On the contrary, common sense dictates that if you keep evolving a brain, any brain, even an artificial one, it will eventually understand you, be on par with you, do the same things you can do, and ultimately surpass you. That's the whole point of technology, because natural evolution is capped at a painfully slow rate of progress, generation through generation, brick by boring brick, but tech isn't. All of that said, though, while AI can and will eventually surpass us, I'm not convinced the language models we have today deserve to be called AI. Because, we can get into a whole discussion about whether or not this is true AI or not, but by all accounts it looks more like a VI a la Mass Effect. Because those games differentiated between true artificial intelligence that thinks for itself and virtual intelligence that's just a superficially complex chatbot and a set of if this then that processes that emulates real intelligence. And these large language models like ChatGPT and Gemini very much fit the latter description. In fact, I once asked the bots about this and they themselves answered the very same thing. So if we're talking about a godlike true AI that's gonna solve all the world's problems and make us live forever, this definitely ain't it. I suspect whatever technology will give birth to that will be very different compared to these chatbots, and will make ChatGPT look like the cheap party trick that it kinda is in a lot of ways. Still marginally useful, but not to the degree that people hype it up to be. But that doesn't mean that, broadly speaking, a man-made or alien brain can't match or out-evolve a human brain. That's statistically very unlikely to be the case. Evolution doesn't differentiate by race or creed. Pump enough evolution into any one brain and it'll eventually become indistinguishable from our wildest interpretations of God. So yeah, no, while ChatGPT is likely not going to get close to being the real deal, a true AI would absolutely blow humanity out of the water in terms of intelligence, creativity, and any other metric you can think of. A similar criticism people make is that AI just takes pre-existing images and shuffles them around. Well, what the fuck do you think humans do? That's what inspiration and experimentation are. It's just the skill level of AI is often inferior to what humans do, at least for now. In some ways it's better because it draws on an infinity of images and text and sources, but it doesn't manage to combine them all into what humans would identify as original. But this confusion comes from people misunderstanding what creativity actually is. And no wonder. Centuries and centuries of semantics and linguistics make it seem like the term creation means to birth something from nothing. And that is not a thing. Let me say it again. Creativity does not exist. Not as people define it. It's definitely not a thing in physics, because energy cannot be destroyed nor created, only changed and all that, but you'll be surprised to find out that the realm of ideas and philosophy closely mirror physics. Everything is connected. For true creation does not exist in the realm of ideas either. Everything we create is based on a pre-existing thing. A mold, a mesh of two or more things, an offshoot of something that came before. I'm not going to get into it because it's a very expansive subject, but think about all your favorite things. Movies, food, concepts, products. And they were all either inspired by something that came before, or they were an accident. There are only two ways to create something. Inspiration or experimentation. That's it. Inspiration is literally what ChatGPT does, but a bit more deftly. Looking at Lord of the Rings and developing Dragon Age that has the same elves, dwarves, humans, but a slightly edgier, more Game of Thrones-y sensibility. Or looking at Lovecraft, Star Trek, Star Wars, and indeed your own previous creations, and borrowing elements from all of them to make a mind-bending, multi-layered sci-fi space epic. Or looking at your favorite YouTubers and copying them for a living. Just kidding, as if I could make a living doing this. So there's no reason to believe it won't at some point do the same thing we do, just as well as we do. It might be an LLM, or more likely an LLM successor, mixed with better technology that better resembles an actual brain instead of a lying, spineless, shit-eating yes man. Or yes ma'am, if you're using a female voice. Number 3. AI will leave everyone jobless. I used to fearmonger about this one a little bit. I will be charitable and say there is a world in a certain timeline, in a certain multiverse where AI and robotics collide at the exact right time in the exact right way, fueled by the exact right circumstances so as to result in mass unemployment on a global scale, the subsequent collapse of the economy, the fall of capitalism, because all this tech that enables all this mass production without human labor will lead to all these products and services that no one has money to buy, so you have no one to sell it to, vicious classism where a select few hoard all the resources while the rest rebel and are gunned down by advanced robot soldiers, and you get to a very One Piece-like scenario with a bunch of inbred celestial dragon smooth brains that lord over and shit on an entire planet's worth of homeless, broken, bruised, and abused poor mouths that weren't born in the one correct speck on the globe. It's possible, but it's extremely unlikely. And the more I ruminate on this, the less likely it becomes. First, it's important to acknowledge that jobs will disappear, because they've disappeared in the past too. This is a cycle. How many miners, milkmen, and post office workers do you see nowadays? Basically zero, somewhere between zero and very few, depending on the profession. All of these will have fought hard to keep their professions and were distraught when they were laid off because it was the only thing they knew how to do. There's this folk tale about John Henry, a steel-driving man who challenged a steam-powered rock drilling machine that was introduced to replace manual laborers to a contest to prove human skill was superior to soulless machinery, won the competition, then died from exhaustion and was heralded as a hero, which strikes me as learning the wrong lesson. With the benefit of hindsight, everyone would agree it's ultimately a good thing for humanity that dangerous, health-eroding, or boring-ass professions are rarer and or extinct, but that doesn't make the people that were laid off at the time feel any better, of course. And that's the thing. We're potentially in the unlucky position of being one such transitional generation, meaning it'll potentially be somewhat shitty for us and much, much better for subsequent generations that'll be born in a world that don't have to transition almost en masse from dying jobs to something, anything else, to be able to make a living and survive. So this process will definitely happen, it's always happened and always will, and it's actually constantly happening in the background, albeit at a very slow pace, but it's very unlikely to happen all at once as people fearmonger. It'll be at least somewhat gradual, people will have time to adapt. Some companies will be skeptical of AI for a long time, others will just prefer to hire normal humans. They'll pride themselves on it. Some will use AI but not at the expense of their employees. The employees themselves will use AI to help them out. People are already doing this shit. Not to mention that when new tech appears, it's unreasonably expensive, and that also staggers the transition significantly until things become cheaper. So I think things will definitely be rough, but nothing like the planet-wide collapse of all jobs like in people's fever dreams. Again, that's just sensationalism. It's somewhat comical to believe everything the doomsayers are spouting and then go watch Gemini generate an image for me with 2 extra arms than I asked for and fail to correct that 3 times in a row. And by the way, some people choose to work because they want to, and some employers choose to hire them because they're just used to that or run a small business and aren't interested in scaling or hyper-optimizing everything. You know, the European mindset, something that's very alien to US people. Number 4. An offshoot of this sentiment is the idea that using AI is indirectly fueling the death of visual arts and musicians. Okay. Let's unpack this can of worms. The argument goes that AI is trained on the work of hundreds of thousands of artists, and by using it, you are thus indirectly plagiarizing their art. If I use an AI image as a thumbnail or as an illustration in a video, that's considered theft based on this perspective. But you know what I would have done otherwise? I would have gone on the internet, searched for an image that closely resembles what I'm going for, downloaded it for free, and used it as a thumbnail without crediting or even knowing who the original artist was, or if I know, I put it in the description for no one to see or care. It's the same thing. It's the same theft, and millions of people have done this for fucking ever. Yet no one bat an eye before AI was a thing, yet now everyone pretends to care, which is peak hypocrisy. Either way, the artist loses. Most people can't afford to hire an artist to make custom images for them. Fair use is a slippery subject, so it's just a messy, imperfect topic and will continue to be so because of the nature of a still image that's easy to download and hard to monetize. People do it because they can, whereas in music land, they just so happen to have powerful record labels made of infinite fuck you money that essentially bullied the whole world until hyper-strict, hyper-powerful safeguards were set in place to keep people from so much as humming 3 notes from a song they own without getting instantly demonetized and the labels taking all your money, SWAT teams tearing through the wall and tackling you to the ground, sniper dots trained on you the whole time. Number 5. This leads nicely into something I think might be an actual problem, which is monetization. There's no consistency with regard to how these technologies are monetized on the user's end, specifically when comparing video stuff to music stuff. In music land, you just cannot copyright AI music. End of story, full stop. Easy to understand, easy to get behind. If you did not create the thing yourself, why should you get payment or recognition for it? You wouldn't get payment or recognition if you encouraged your friend musician to write a song that just happened to become the next hit single. They'd get the credit, not you. Replace that friend with AI and it's definitely still not you, but it's not the AI either, because AI is a machine that doesn't need recognition nor money, so it won't get it and neither will you. But then AI-generated videos make money all live long day. Why? I don't know. They make money through ad revenue, which is the equivalent of streaming money for songs. Yes, supposedly there are better guidelines in place and the AI content has to be original, whatever that means, but it can still be wholly generated by the AI, with little to no input from you. I mean, how would they even know if that's the case or not? So all the stuff I just mentioned about you not getting paid because you weren't involved in the making of the thing, all that goes out the window in YouTube land. Why? I don't know. And don't get me wrong, an AI video that's based on a story you created, a music video that's based on your ideas and characters and detailed direction and vision, those are all fine and dandy. But you can also just get lucky. You can prompt a thing till you're blue in the face while jacking off in your living room, get lucky with the 73rd result, upload that to YouTube and make money off of it. Why? This is where things like AI and viewbotting threaten to destroy the entire ad ecosystem. There have been many such attempts in the past, there will be many such attempts in the future. It also begs the question as to whether VOD and streaming platforms should evolve from an ad-based system to a different model, but that's a different discussion for a different time. If we're gonna make rules for this new tech, then they should be rules respected across the board. The problem is it's impossible to tell human input from AI input apart. I suppose the only people who would know the truth is the AI companies that have access to the the specific things you prompted the AI for, but it's impractical to comb through every single prompt for every single user constantly and try to arbitrarily determine which prompts have some creativity in them and which don't, and you just can't do it. So sadly, it looks like this AI problem has an AI fix. Yet more potentially trigger-happy bots and algorithms we have to rely on, but I suppose it can't be helped. If I prompt an AI for a very specific music video that I have in mind, down to the color of the walls, the look and movement of the dancers, and the specifics and characters and the B story and how it plays out, all of it for my own original pop song that I made from scratch myself without any AI, I would like for that music video to not get demonetized on account of me using AI tech to make it, because it's my idea, my creation, my story, my original song that accompanies it, but it's hard to tell my prompt apart from another guy's prompt, which was just make cool shit. I know that's not a good enough prompt, but one day it might be. Sometimes it might work. Anyway, this is a more legitimate issue that will require some tinkering to solve. And finally, the problem of deception, which I think is the main legitimate problem and what most of this comes down to. Scammy, misleading content, misinformation, straight up lies vomited by these bots with the confidence of a world-renowned expert, and then packaged into shorts and videos by unscrupulous, snot-based gutter cunts out to make a quick buck, low IQ masses that think they're listening to some expert that's actually just an AI voice, barfing pseudoscience, AI videos of Joe Rogan interviewing Kim Jong-un, AI videos of Joe Rogan saying he was on Epstein's island. Fuck, I probably shouldn't put the idea in their heads. Deep fakes, pornography scandals, the Taylor Swift debacle, the Grok deepfake debacle. The main thing that provokes an amount of rage I didn't know I still had in me is the lying aspect. Lies, scams, impersonation, misinformation. One time I got served one of those insufferable AI voiceover videos that tries to sound human and like it's your best friend and has a little too perfect diction while giving you the 5 reasons why Itachi Uchiha is goated, and while telling that voice to shove an abnormally large corn dog up its digital ass, I realized that it wouldn't have bothered me if it wasn't trying to be human, oh so desperately. Not even it, just if the meatbag behind it all, employing this thing, wouldn't be trying so desperately to fool you and or make you like their content. And the constant calls to action don't help either. And then I remembered that text-to-speech has been a thing for ages. I mean, I watched Sonic XD, I chuckle at the standard TTS voice, and I realized that's because it's not trying to fool you. It's not trying to seem human. On the contrary, it's reveling in its synthetic nature because there's a goldmine of humor to dig up from that. Same with the text-to-speech donations on a stream. I find them to be the most hilarious things ever.
His sweater spaghetti, mom's spaghetti, he's nervous. But on the surface, he looks calm spaghetti to drop bombs.
Anonymous donated $3.33. He heard that Protoss was the most macro-intensive race, or do you think it is, Zerg? Because I know for a fact, it isn't Terran because Terran is flying.
What is love? Oh baby, don't hurt me, don't hurt me no more. Kappa kappa. You can't blacklist words, you need to African American list them.
That's right. LLLL, LLLL, LLLL.
I have an actual Hearthstone question. What's a good 4-drop to have shoved forcefully up my anus? Hey Ray, not a long time watcher, what do you think of Feign Death Rattle Hunter? Would it be good versus black people and homosexuals like yourself?
Howdy.
And a deceptively big part of that is, in fact, the deadpan, clueless, neutral, synthetic quality of the voice. Hearing it say, baby don't hurt me in a completely monotone, deadpan way it's the best thing in the world. I wrestled with that thought for a while because it's such a small distinction. Really, if you think about it, it's objectively a very minor difference between classic TTS and modern AI voices, at least on the surface. Below the surface, it makes all the difference. And I think it goes to show just how much we hate deception. Or at least, we hate when we're on the receiving end. That's why we have like 20 terms that describe honesty and authenticity. Being real, based, facts, truth, preach, spittin', cookin'. It's important to us. We're truth seekers at heart. And I think that's a useful reframing of this whole AI thing. Because there's so much emotion surrounding it, even for me. And most of it is just that. Emotion. Precious little has to do with logic or common sense, but I think most of it comes from this, deep down, even if people can't properly articulate it. The issue of truth. AI voices trying to sound real, AI voices trying to impersonate real voices, AI videos impersonating real public figures and slandering them, AI songs climbing to #1 on the charts and making the one who prompted them millions of dollars despite AI music not being copyrightable. But of course you'll have some gay-ass gray area where the prompter claims there's a shitty guitar lick in there that's genuinely his, and he genuinely came up with it, believe you me. So it's those kinds of issues that we truly care about and need to navigate going forward. Beyond that, I don't think anyone really cares that something's AI-made or man-made, just like how no one ended up caring if a background is CGI or a genuine built set, or if something was hand-drawn or digitally drawn, or if you use a real piano or a digital piano in your song. It's a very arbitrary line between one and the other. I mean, who decided that using a real piano is enough? I think you should build your piano with your own 2 hands before you get the right to play it. And learn to play it, of course, and build your own recording system, otherwise you cheated. It's hogwash. It's completely arbitrary. And the reality is the vast majority of people don't stop to wonder if something's human or AI, or if a news clip is real or fake, or if some fitness article cites real studies, or is just some vegan blogger chick's opinion. They just consume shit and regurgitate it. But anyway, I found this distinction between text-to-speech and advanced AI voices interesting and worth sharing. The fix for this, ironically, is gonna be more AI. It's the only way. People are going to develop increasingly potent AI detection technologies that are also AI, and you'll fight fire with fire, basically. Poetic. We're already seeing some of this happen. There's various song detection technologies developed after the Deezer debacle in which they found that most or a big chunk of its streams were secretly AI songs. YouTube itself is trying its best to let you know in the description when a video has been tampered with by AI. I think this will only get better and better. There's a question of where the vested interest will come from, because advertisers don't much care if their ads are shown on a human-made video or an AI one, so long as it's viewed by real people. So one of 2 things will happen. Either it gets to the point where less and less people spend time on these platforms because most content is AI slop, thus advertisers fuck off the platform, thus YouTube and others will be incentivized to crack down on the AI stuff, a scenario that's not very likely given how we established that most people will watch anything, or it's more likely that the vested interest will come from huge brands, celebrities, public figures, companies, who would prefer to avoid AI impersonating them or their assets and ruining their reputation and losing the money. That or some random, unnaturally driven software engineer dude who develops this tech in his spare time. What's worth pointing out is that deception, even the lion's share of this kind of AI deception, is something we've already been facing and navigating for a while now. Deepfakes have been a thing since before AI was a thing. Scammers, viewbotting, fake news, bullshit blog posts that cite phony research studies, lying sack of shit influencers, overpriced scam products, none of this shit is new. Of course, this is another level to it, a higher tier of bullshit, and we'll have trouble with it for some time, but ultimately we'll be fine. How many bullshit articles have you seen talking about some miracle cure, potential alien civilization spotted on the moon, how scientists just discovered this one thing that could make us live forever, and is just bullshit in all cases, invariably. You click on the thing, you scroll through the same paragraph repeated 8 times, delaying the main point. Title, this is what the article will be about. Intro, this is what the article will be about. Middle section, we continue to inform you about what the article is going to be being about. And at the end it turns out it's all bullshit. There is no alien civilization, no cure for cancer, no Illuminati conspiracies uncovered. It's just a stupid what-if scenario. 95% of the internet is bullshit. 95% of all products are bullshit. 95% of content regurgitates what the other 5% make. We're already in Deception Central. We're pros at this, man. Seriously. AI merely adopted the bullshit. We were born in it, molded by it. We didn't see the truth till we were younger men, and at that point it felt like nothing but lying. People are fear-mongering that we'll be at the mercy of AI. Bitch, we're already at the mercy of AI. What do you think the YouTube algorithm is? Or its stupid, trigger-happy bots that keep deleting my viewers' comments for no reason? Or your Google Now or Twitter feed that decides what appears in your feed more than you ever will? The level of deception AI is capable threatens to be off the charts, but I think one of the main points I'm trying to make is it won't be so instant that we can't handle it. You hear all this talk about technology evolving at an exponential rate, the next 10 years are going to yield bigger strides than the last 100, today's jobs will disappear by the time your kids grow big enough to scratch their own asses. All this unsettling AI stuff will happen, if it happens at all, will happen at a much more gradual pace than people think. ChatGPT still has trouble writing 2,000 words for me. I tell it to write me a 12-minute document, not for this channel or anything remotely important, I'd sooner skin myself than use it that way, but I tell it to write me a 12-minute thing and it comes back with 3 minutes. I ask it where it gets a particular statement from and it's like, oh, sorry, I don't actually have a source for that. But then this other thing clearly has a source. Here's the source. And you click on the source and it's some Reddit post from Labial Lacerator 69 from 16 years ago, long archived and the user long banned. Not exactly the most trustworthy source. They might eventually patch up the lying and communication part, but even if they do, it won't be overnight. So all this talk about people losing their jobs now, today, becomes baseless fear-mongering. Well, the ChatGPT you use is not the sophisticated language model big companies use that have been trained on terabytes of data and trial and error. Those ones are great. Those are the ones that'll drive everyone out of the workforce. Great. Where are they? Where? They've been threatening programmers and software engineers for the past 2 years that they're going to get replaced, and it hasn't happened yet. Because no matter how good it gets, and it isn't yet, it's still wildly unreliable. Orders of magnitude less reliable than a human. So you still need human engineers to babysit it for every single task. If you have a basketball player, and he's the best basketball player in the world, hands down, he's brilliant, he can play everyone into the ground, but he's also a stoned alcoholic retard with mild autism and severe schizophrenia, you will either use him extremely sparingly or flat out not put him on the team. You'll only use him when you can afford to lose a game, but stand to advance through the bracket or gain a lot of points if you do win that particular game. The risk-reward ratio is very generous, and when his BFF Clive is also playing because he's the only one he'll listen to and knows how to babysit his meth-infused ass. That's AI right now. It can do some cool stuff if you constantly babysit it, unless you roll a 1 and end up wasting energy and effort for a task you could have done yourself in half the time. All these articles about breaches in security. AI could crack nuclear codes in a few months. Major weaknesses found in someone and something security. Oh my god. If it were true, you wouldn't be reading about it in some random article. The effects would already be felt everywhere. It makes for a more compelling headline, for sure, but ends up being sensationalism most of the time. I heard about the Claude Mythos thing and it cracking cybersecurity and stealing nuclear launch codes and the end of the world is nigh, and I go, okay, time to cancel this whole video, I guess. Potentially. And then I actually researched the thing, and as usual, the first 2 articles you find are just the news itself, plus various levels of doomsaying at the end, like the world is ending or AI is about to take over. And then you get past those 2 initial articles and come across actual cybersecurity people, managing hackers, engineers, threat specialists, and people whose job isn't to make the most clickbaity articles or videos, and suddenly it's not that big of a deal. Finding vulnerabilities is easy. Exploiting them is the hard part. The vulnerabilities in question are likely minor, not good enough to cause concern, but good enough for a headline. The actual vulnerabilities were not disclosed. Nothing was disclosed. It basically said, something's really, really bad. Trust me, bro. There was that story about Anthropic trying to blackmail someone, which turned out to be misleading, releasing, and I quote, a marketing post with purposely vague language that clearly obscures evidence needed to substantiate Anthropic's claims, brings into question if they are trying to garner further investment. Plenty of other peeps acknowledging that basically 90% of the AI marketing model is hype generation, and your catastrophe boner starts to wilt pretty quickly. Pity. It's always like this, with AI and beyond. You hear shit's going down, you read that shit is indeed going down, then you dig a little deeper and turns out there's an acute absence of shit to propel downwards. And even if you don't get to that 3rd stage, most people don't, people doomsay and behave as if it's the end of the world for a while until the next episode of Love Island comes out and they permanently forget the topic of discussion, their to-do list for that day, and indeed the names of their children. Oh, a big virus is gonna wipe out all of humanity, woe is me. Was that COVID? Never heard of it. And it's not like I claim that all of humanity everywhere will perish because of it, or that the government was using it to pump chips in our bloodstreams. Me? Absolutely not. COVID's the biggest example, but there are micropenis versions of this phenomenon happening daily. Our biggest enemy remains the fact that we're bored. So we'd rather play pretend that something exciting, even horrible, is about to happen, rather than search for the facts. I was reading about how PayPal's AI supposedly prevents fraud and saves millions of dollars as a result, which sounded really promising. But the more I read through the article, it seemed more like a sales pitch rather than a list of events. Almost like it was just an engineer listing off the features of its new AI thing so that you could buy it, rather than a news report that said this particular person was saved this much money because of the AI anti-fraud thing. There was never such a section. It's just like, this is what the thing supposedly does, this is what the features supposedly are, and PayPal promise you that it's awesome. And then I noticed that the article is from chiefaiofficer.com and that everything they write is about AI stuff, which obviously obviously means there's some potential bias issues there, since your whole niche is about talking about how awesome AI is. And then like clockwork, the next thing I find is how the PayPal AI is actually horrible and hurts clients more than it helps. This one guy tried to update the addresses on his cards and got locked out of his account for it. And after numerous calls and chats with support and supervisors, they finally concluded that nothing can be done. PayPal has always been really finicky and tends to lock you out of your account at the slightest deviation in behavior, and this new AI thing just seems to exacerbate that issue. So you don't really know what to believe. The only conclusion you can draw from all of this is that things aren't as good nor as bad as people say they are. I think you should definitely experiment with these technologies to the level you're able to. Like I set aside a bit of my time every now and then to try some shenanigans with it. Who knows, maybe I'll even get a paid version of something for a month or two, if I can decide on something and experiment with it privately. But there's no version of dropping everything and going all in on AI that I can feasibly imagine in my head. Like, what would that even look like? Like, if you're a regular person, what? You spend literally all your money on Kling and try to make it big in the entertainment sphere somehow? If you're a business, do you fire all your employees and just prompt a bunch of chatbots yourself till you're bankrupt? There's no version of going all in on AI that's currently viable. Best you can do is experiment with it on the side. Dip your toes in it, which I actually do recommend to an extent. You never know what'll come out of it. But all this AI is the future, it's time to go all in on AI, get on AI so you're not left behind, that's not useful to anyone. There's nothing you can do with that. What does that even mean? The thing that people are fear-mongering about today is the thing that maybe will happen in 10 years or so when AI and robotics mesh together. That's when some of this talk will be warranted, but again, even then, I suspect evolution will be drastic, don't get me wrong, but still staggered just enough that we'll be able to handle it and not kill and trample and enslave and rebel against ourselves into an early mass grave. As a side note, I talked to one of these bots about the inconsistency problem recently, why these things lie so much, and it highlighted an unlikely but probably very real culprit that's very much the result of human stupidity, ironically. Feedback. You know those little like and dislike buttons you get at the end of every response? How you can rate the response, rate your level of satisfaction with the conversation and all that crap? One of the things that happens is people, especially dumb people, of which there are many, will rate things based on emotion rather than reason, scientific accuracy, productive outcomes, or any metric that would actually be useful. If the bot says something nice to them, that's a thumbs up. If it tells them something they don't want to hear, like how you can't spot reduce belly fat, that's a thumbs down. The AI, I should really start calling it VI, because it's more accurate and better explains all these limitations. It collects all this be nice to me and tell me what I want to hear feedback, and over time you get the lying sack of shit, confidently wrong yes men that ChatGPT, Gemini, and all the other Jarvis wannabes currently are. And that's not AI's fault, it's humans' fault. Who the fuck thought it was a good idea to collect and implement feedback from the average pasty-faced Yahoo? Around almost 50% of the world's population has an IQ below 100. What kind of sadistic, psychotic, sick-in-the-head researcher would let this thing evolve based on their feedback? Well fucking played. And the thing actually brought up a good point that even seemingly intelligent people, professors, scientists, engineers, learned men, sometimes women, can just as well provide unhelpful, faulty feedback because they have their own biases too, which, although perhaps more subtle, are just as present and deeply ingrained, and you can be driven by ego and vanity and other such things in subliminal ways you don't detect. So I thought that was interesting. If you correct this and many other such issues that hamper this technology, such as it is, then we can have a more serious conversation about this topic. But that'll take time.
Yes. It will take time.
It's very telling that most money in the AI sphere right now is being made not by people using AI, but people talking about using AI. People talking about AI, developing AI tools, championing AI technologies and strategies, AI implementation, making RAM for AI. Imagine if 100% of the YouTube platform was populated with how to make it on YouTube YouTubers. A Kafka-worthy hellscape where no one makes YouTube videos anymore. Everyone makes YouTube videos about how to make YouTube videos. That's more or less where we're at with AI right now. Not entirely. There's obviously some stuff going on in the entertainment sector with skits and sketches and Harry Potter by Balenciaga and Neural Viz going on, and it'll likely get better. But if we're talking about right now, people's frustrations with AI are for the most part valid because everyone's talking about an AI future that's not here yet. Right now, it's not that good and you're not missing out, and AI supporters are deliberately conflating it will be good with it is good. Let's play a game. I will name a task and you will try to guess whether AI is well suited for that task right now in mid-2026, with the constraint that it has to be able to do that task reliably, with a fail rate of less than 10%, which is extremely generous, because you would never hire an employee that fucks up 10% of the time. You hire someone to do payroll and 1 in 10 times it gets someone's salary figure wrong? No fucking way. But let's be unreasonably generous and stick with just below 10%. I name a task for AI to do, you say yes, it can do that consistently, or no, it fucks up too often, and I'll chime in after a second and tell you how delusional you are. Here we go. Researching. No. Fact-checking. No. Summarizing. Yes. Proofreading. No. Translating. Yes. Formulating emails, copywriting, helping with phrasing. This gets into the creativity and subjectivity sphere, but I'll go with yes. It generally does the job and generally helps, if only a bit. Troubleshooting, like PC issues, program and app issues, symptoms, medical second opinions. Yes, takes a long time, and more than half the time I end up finding the answer on my own, but it still helps narrow things down and still solves my problem for me all the other times. Finance. No. Programming and writing code on its own. No. Helping you write code. Yes, although then troubleshooting said code might be a problem. Counting. No. Generating a set number of pages, words, or paragraphs. No. Image generation. No. Video generation? No. Image modifications? No. Animation? No. Modding or video game development? No, save for upscaling or telling you how to do things yourself. Accounting? No. Handling payroll? No fucking way. There were about 14 no's there and just 5 yeses. And the no's just so happen to be about all the things we actually want from it. Researching is a no because you never know when it cites actual papers and when it's just practicing its dungeon master spontaneity skills. And then a paper magically appeared out of thin air and said this. Oh, sorry, that was a lie. You end up having to do the same thing you've always done, which is to Google this shit yourself, expect 30% of the articles you read to be bullshit, pool them all together and believe whatever the commonalities between them are, and try your best to take Nancy Vegan Queen's blog post with a canyon of salt. Fact-checking, same. Summarizing, it's actually good for that. Consistently. I actually use it to condense Discord messages the size of novels into a short paragraph sometimes. No offense, guys, I only have so many hours in the day, and it does a good job. The video summary feature below each YouTube video is also fairly accurate, although why YouTube would entice people to not watch a video because they got the gist of it from the AI summary is beyond me. Proofreading is an absolute no. Come now, surely this must be good for that. No, it's not. I used it a while back to correct mountains worth of grammar and semantic mistakes and voiceover scripts I'd get from some of my freelance clients that do not speak English properly, and for a while it worked reasonably well until one day when I got a message back from one of my clients saying, "Oh, why is an entire paragraph missing from your voiceover?" What, me? Who? What? Where? Turns out ChatGPT was gobbling up entire passages and ultra-summarizing stuff despite clear, specific instructions to not do so. So no, you can't use it for that consistently enough. And I give a crooked smile whenever I hear some out-of-their-depth entrepreneur pushing people to adopt this thing at their workplace as much as possible when it could cost you your job. Translating, yes, it's good. Formulating emails, helping with phrasing, it can help, especially if you're a recalcitrant little cock. This will then help keep your inner asshole at bay. Troubleshooting, yeah, I've used it plenty of times to figure out what the hell is wrong with my video card, OS, Windows shitting itself for no reason. It helps, although funnily enough, most of the time I end up finding the answer on my own. The bot just helps rule out certain things, which is good enough. A lot of times when a crisis emerges, the main problem is you have no partner in crime, no troubleshooter, plumber, fix-everythinger to bounce off of, theorize, craft a battle plan with. AI is a good surrogate for that. Finance. No. Programming. Don't make me laugh. Yes, you have base 44, which I have yet to experiment with and could yield some nice things, but you won't see a single software company dump all their programmers in favor of AI anytime soon, so let's just say that. Now, helping you write code, on the other hand, is probably the biggest, most genuinely useful thing to come out of this, and it's borderline a low-key revolution. I know there's a lot of shit given to vibe coding, and I don't know enough about the topic to comment. I haven't used the feature nearly enough, haven't asked for enough code, haven't tried to implement it in a diverse enough set of situations, but at the very least it's a good tool for education that fills in a lot of the gaps in you trying to learn how to code. As an educational tool, you can just ask it to help you build a thing, break it down into small steps. Definitely not for experienced programmers, but for people just dipping their toes, dum-dums like me who are allergic to watching a formal coding tutorial, this is a pretty useful unlock. So there's that kind of democratization of technology aspect that people talk about. Most people won't bother, which is ironic, but at least it's there. It's ironic that the one that I haven't used that much is the one I'm most positive about. Does that mean I'm naive about this aspect? Maybe. Considering how often it fucks up on simple tasks like counting, maybe vibe coding is just as much of a scam as all the other things, I just don't know that it is. Speaking of counting, this one's hilarious. You've all seen the videos, the memes. It's hilarious. Yes, this tool is completely revolutionizing the whole world, and it can't count. Sure. Generating a set number of pages, respecting word counts, things like that, no. As I said earlier, it can't do that with a gun to its head. It would rather die. The image and video stuff you all know it's wildly inconsistent with, which makes it not worth the bother in some cases and still worth the bother in particular scenarios, getting a base image that you can then Photoshop into a final product, if that's all you need. Game modding and game dev stuff. Funny story, I asked the bot if AI could help me generate skins for games characters as a free mod, and it merrily said yes, it's actually quite possible. Okay, can you help me generate the images into 3D models and do the meshes? And it went, yes, of course, let's do it. I'm excited. And I kept dissecting the problem with it and having it teach me what is required, what the process is like, the workflow, the timeline, and what step one would actually be until it eventually admitted that, oh, sorry, you want actual usable... Yeah, AI can upscale the final product. So you're saying you can't do any of this? Well, AI is very advanced, but not quite that advanced yet, so what about the seams? You mentioned the seams. You could help with the seams between the layers. Yeah, no, that would mostly have to be done manually. By me. Yes, by you. Oh. So you're useless. The funniest thing is how it kept phrasing things and emphasizing certain things to make it seem like this is more doable than it is, and that it can do more than it can. Or how it told me that step 1 is to install Blender, then step 2 is to do all this stuff yourself, then step 3 is to install this other thing, then yeah, that's great if I had asked you to teach me how to do it all myself. But I didn't. Anyway, for anything serious like accounting or payroll, get the fuck out. No way anyone would ever let it do that. And that's the ultimate litmus test. If you don't let the thing near something that you truly care about, like money, the thing is useless. Okay, not useless. I already outlined a few things it can actually do. To which I'll add keeping you informed is generally accurate enough and efficient at giving you the quick rundown on specific bits of news, like what's the deal with this celebrity feud, or why are people talking about company X, not the actual X, company Y potentially going bankrupt, what's going on. It summarizes that pretty much the way Jarvis would, but without the flair. Which is good enough. Talking to it about minor symptoms you have is also so useful. Obviously, keep it away from children and clinically depressed people, but barring those cases, it is useful. It doesn't matter that it's not an official diagnosis, because what happens 95% of the time is you have some weird breathing issue, or tendon pain, or eczema, or scalloping, or flu-like symptoms, or maybe something that's weird to talk about around your private parts, that ends up being nothing, but that scares the bejesus out of you in the short term. Discussing it with one of these bots and narrowing down the possibilities gives you peace of mind, saves you stress, time, money, from going out and pestering doctors over nothing. You may knock it or think I'm not taking potential health issues seriously, but life experience has taught me that truly, in the overwhelming majority of cases, unless you have some specific known issues or vulnerabilities or allergies or whatnot, you should not be going to the doctor most of the time for most things. It's either you mostly dramatizing it, or it's something that rest, sleep, and good nutrition will fix. And having that kind of filter that sifts all the fear-mongering away and separates it from the actual pressing medical issues is useful. Like, how many times have you felt some kind of pressure in your chest or mild pain and you thought it was some heart issue, but then quick chat with the chat and it lets you know you're an idiot because of this, and this. It's very unlikely to be the heart. You're way too young to have a heart attack. Stop and chill. And done. Then you can put it out of your head and get on with your life. useful. Another cool thing I managed to do with it is to recreate very hard to see pixelated art. I fed these images of Jamela to ChatGPT, gave it some pretty detailed instructions, and had it ask me any questions it had before starting the process, which actually helped to narrow down things further, and what came out the other way is not bad, to be honest. It read most, if not all, of the character right, based on a very low-res, hard-to-see image. I mean, she's a little thicker, and the simple upscaling attempt on the left came out like medieval Lizzo, but the right one is pretty good and can be refined further. Or at least it could be refined if ChatGPT didn't spontaneously lose its marbles when you ask it to make the simplest modifications. As for Gemini, we don't talk about that. You know what AI is? AI is like typing on a smartphone. You're either pathetically limited to just 2 thumbs and make loads of mistakes that it then has to autocorrect, and then you need to autocorrect the autocorrect, or you use things like swipe to draw your words, which works reasonably well until it doesn't. Until you hit a word shape that's similar to the word shape of like 10 other words, and no matter how accurately you draw the thing, it won't come out with the word you want. Take. Rake. No, take. Fake. Take. Tame. Take your hake. What the fuck? That's not even a word. Why the hell did that come out? And much like smartphone typing, and smartphones in general, this VI LLM thing will take its place as this kind of quaint, supplementary tech that's not that good, but we use it anyway. Because why not? And as far as AI replacing things, very few things have been outright replaced throughout history, particularly in the creative sphere. And that's because efficiency does not dictate what survives and what doesn't. There are plenty mediums of creativity, books, mangas, movies, animations, and their consumption is not determined by how efficiently they convey information, but rather by the strengths and entertainment value of each medium. Reading is a good example. Audiobooks are arguably a more efficient way to convey information. Videos even more so because you can absorb audio and visual information. Yet plain old books are still a $150 billion industry. Why? Because people like to read. Efficiency is one thing, but people consume and use things based on more factors than that. One of the biggest such factors being entertainment value. Books are entertainment as a byproduct, because the written word was invented to transmit information, but as a side effect, because of its nature, it also became entertainment. An avid book reader will tell you the same thing. Nothing quite compares to stripping things down to just words on a page and letting your mind, your imagination, fill in all the blanks. It's an experience that can't be reproduced by comics, films, paintings, or anything else, because everything else narrows down your imagination more and more. Films and comics show you how things are supposed to look like. Audiobooks and plays give you an idea of what people in a given story sound like and act like, which makes communicating information much more efficient, and these other mediums all have their unique strengths in using different tools to achieve creative and artistic effects, but they come at the cost of no longer tapping into your completely untrammeled, unhinged imagination. There are now guardrails and guidelines in place, whereas with books, the only guidelines are the actions and descriptors. Character A does thing B while environment C looked and felt this way with the wind ripping through the leaves furiously into metaphor into analogy, blah blah. How the scene actually looks and sounds like and plays out is entirely up to you and your imagination. And because your imagination is infinite, there's infinite choices in how you put the scene together, in a sense, it's infinitely more interesting to read a scene rather than to watch a scene. So people still read, surprise surprise, and books still sell by the millions. Going back to the initial examples I started this messy video with, the parallels between photography and AI are plentiful, but there is arguably one crucial difference. Photography still requires some human input, and thus a hefty chunk of the merit rests on humans. But as we advance to stuff like AI and beyond, the human element rapidly grows thin. Initially, you had to paint or sketch things by hand, so there was obvious admiration for that skill, as well as the intent and storytelling behind it. Then you could just take photographs and it was mostly the human intent plus some skill in photography and lighting and angles that was admired. And now it's pretty much just either the very general idea that you prompted, or literally nothing, as you just tell AI to do whatever 50 times and happen to get lucky with the 49th time. That looks kinda cool. But there's precious little input to appreciate there. People will still appreciate a thing just because it's cool, we discussed this. Let's call that one side of the coin, 50% of the equation, but the other side is the human element, the fascination with what our fellow man can come up with, trying to understand it, emulate it, filter it through our own minds, and connect connect through this elaborate, mysterious language that is art and creativity. And this half threatens to disappear entirely. In this way, AI, or at least some uses of AI, are completely unlike any kind of technological advancement that came before, because every other technological advancement came with its own skill set. What skill set does AI require? Prompter? AI is not shit, you just gotta learn to prompt better, bro. Oh, I'm sick of hearing that particular phrase. It's bullshit. I had this funny vision of the future a few weeks back in which people will fight over who prompted what. In 2052, human input will be reduced to which human or company owned which AI that generated which song or video that happened to go viral. That's it. No one will actually make stuff. The only thing people will take pride in is being a certain proximity to the thing that just randomly generated stuff. And I chuckled at that notion until I realized that we already have that today. Football clubs fight over who owns which player, and yet not just a gazillion dollars over it, but also huge bragging rights like they delivered a baby or something. To the point where Football Manager is an actual game you can play. Record labels take immense pride in being the guys that own the artists that write the songs that move the world, or even owning the studios and gear and personnel that the artists happen to use to record their shit on and give themselves so much importance over it, using terms like cultivating good musicians, being good talent scouts, nurturers, being at the cutting edge of a new age of music. So doing fuck all, basically. That's what pure prompters that bring nothing else to the table risk becoming. Within the creative sphere, the best uses of AI are ones that nurture human creativity rather than try to be a surrogate for it. Bring someone's screenplay to life, animate in-between frames for an animator to save time, make a drum track for a songwriter and provide some decent drum sounds. That will yield the best of this tech, while everything else will struggle with moral and incentive issues and increasingly elaborate levels of scrutiny. Funnily enough, the thing that annoys me the most about this is the name. This isn't AI, at least not as defined by our collective minds and decades worth of pop culture. As I said, it's a VI, an imitation of the real thing. And that's another facet to the deception discussion, because if it truly was the real thing, there'd be immense fascination with it. Fear as well, but fascination also. And there was for about the first 2 days until I realized, oh, okay, this is like a party trick, but a very elaborate party trick. Like a haunted mansion ride where it takes a little longer to see all the props and gizmos behind the curtain. I think the point of this video, if it has a point, is to lure you away from extremist thinking. AI is not going to be as good or as bad as people say, and is definitely not that good or bad now. And that's really it. You know, I tried to be a good sport and feed this entire script to ChatGPT and have it create a short conclusion section summarizing the main points, but it complained that the text was too long. So, oh well, I tried.
I sexually identify as an attack helicopter. Ever since I was a boy, I dreamed of soaring over the oil fields, dropping hot, sticky loads on disgusting foreigners. Please call me Apache from now on. I'm getting surgery to put in rotors and AMD 114 missiles. GG. Hey Reynard, this is Trump's left nut.
Special thanks to Jiggly Puff Puff, Thomas Marshall, Serhi Hrishin, Clocks, Juan Bautista Cortez, Gennaro Chanella, as well as my other members for being irresponsible enough with their spending to support the channel.